Hi, everyone. I'm Sean Lyle.
And I'm Brian Avery.
And welcome to Voices from the Field, a podcast brought to you by the University of Florida Department of Sport Management. This podcast was created to share the career journeys of sport industry professionals. Our hope is that you learn the ins and outs of different sports industry professions. We're excited to be with all of you this week and with our special guest, Bennie Fowler. Bennie is a results and leadership coach, consultant, NFL wide receiver, and an Amazon best-selling author.
Bennie got his bachelor's degree from Michigan State University. He has been a wide receiver in the NFL since 2014 and is currently playing for the New Orleans Saints. Besides playing football, Bennie is a leadership coach, keynote speaker, and author of Amazon's best-selling book, Silver Spoon, The Imperfect Guide to Success.
Bennie, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate that introduction. Thank you.
Definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. We're excited to hear more about that. And so could you kind of get us started with your career journey, obviously playing football in college and then going on to play pro, but you've done a lot of other things along the way. So what kind of drew you, maybe share a little bit about what drew you into football to begin with, and then what kind of drew you to become a coach and writing a book?
Yeah, so I guess, there's a lot there, but if I could really just, describe it in a way, I wasn't really into football. I played a little bit of football when, I was younger. So maybe like I played at 8 years old, 10 years old, and then I stopped playing. I wanted to be a basketball player. I wanted to be just like Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant, the late, great Kobe Bryant, was my favorite basketball player. And, there was a moment in high school where, I'm playing in my first ever high school varsity basketball game, and I go up for a layup and I get fouled towards the end of the game. And I had never really felt any anxiety or any pressure in my life, any nervousness. And that moment right there was a tough moment for me. I airballed the free throw. I was like 4 feet away from the basket. And that was a tough moment for me. And I don't know, I wasn't thinking about pivoting in sports, but my mom was like, maybe you should go use your talents somewhere else. And I was a state champion in track. She's like, go use your speed somewhere else. And sometimes life does that to us, where it gives us a different perspective, or somebody else gives us a different perspective. And my mom gave that to me, because my friends had kept asking me to come out for the football team. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to play basketball. They can see my face. I want to be popular. And I went to a basketball school. But my mom encouraged me to go out there. And how many moms out there that actually help their sons to go out there and play the game of football, a game where you get hit hard? But my mom did that for me. And that's what led me to my journey to football, which led me to get a scholarship to Michigan State.
Bennie, if I may interject for a moment, don't feel bad. I've only ever airballed in basketball, so missing one is nothing. But aside from that, if you had, your dream school to play for basketball, did you have anything in mind, or even in the NBA?
Yeah, I wanted to be a Los Angeles Laker. Whatever Kobe Bryant did is what I wanted. Is what I wanted to do. And the Pistons, growing up, they were a great team when I was in high school, and I was always going to those games. I was best friends with Joe Dumar's son, so I was always going to those games. Chauncey Billups, Richard Hamilton, Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace. They would come to our high school games. That's how good we were. We were number 3 in the country, so we were in front of all those big schools, and IMG and Oak Hill. We were in front of all of those guys. So I had 4 7-footers on my basketball team in high school, so we looked like a college team.
Where'd you go to high school?
Detroit Country Day. Chris Webber went there. Shane Battier went there. So we had a lot of, we're a basketball school. Right.
Definitely. Thanks. Great.
Yeah. And what, okay. So you talked a little bit about football, which I love the interesting, like no one would have saw that story coming, and just have such like a moment where you're like, I remember this one time, like this actually like one bad foul that kind of changed the trajectory of my athletic career, which is pretty amazing that you can like pinpoint the moment for sure. Yeah. And then so tell me a little bit about, now you've been playing football, and you've been getting into other things, very entrepreneurial. So have you always been like that? Have you kind of had that, like, yeah, I play football, but like, I got a lot of other interests that I'm going to pursue?
No, I had to, that you're not going to play football for a long time. And I've had a couple mentors, not in the NFL space, that say, hey, when you step into that NFL building, you're on your way out. Regardless if you played 10, 12, 15 years, you're still on your way out. They have a combine every year. They have a draft every single year. So the longer you play, I mean, they're going to try to get you out. The NFL stands not for long. And, that's one of the most important things that I learned early on. So it didn't really hit me until I got cut for the first time. So I would say after my 4th year in the NFL, I was coming off my best year. I signed with the Chicago Bears. I'm now playing in the city my mom is living in. My mom's just a hop, skip, and a jump away from the stadium. And I'm in the city. Things are going well, all the bells and whistles, after free agency. And after training camp, I got cut.
Wow.
And I was at home for 4 weeks, no job. I had never had this experience in the NFL. And it's just like, what am I going to do if the NFL doesn't come calling back? And that's when I decided to write my book. And I was like, I'm going to speak on stage and I'm going to inspire people with my story, as well as the story from some of the incredible guys that I've played with and shared the field with. And then I got signed by the New England Patriots. And sometimes life puts us on the sideline to give us a different perspective. And then when I got signed by New England, I had a chance to play with Tom Brady, Bill Belichick. And it got me back into the mindset that got me back into the NFL. But that's what kind of gave me that entrepreneurial mindset, is that, getting cut for the first time and being at home, no job, no money coming in. I didn't know what was going to happen. And I always wanted to be my own boss and live life on my own terms.
So Bennie, how long into your career before you got cut for the first time?
4 years.
4 years specifically.
Yeah, 4 years, no job.
Obviously, right. That's a pivotal time. I'm impressed with the transition that you obviously made. But, while you are an athlete and then while you're, conducting life as an entrepreneur at some capacity, what does your day-to-day look like? How do you manage these varying and opposing somewhat roles that you play?
Right now, how do I manage it?
Yeah. No.
Well, I use everything that I've been taught in football and being an athlete, especially a student athlete in college, or when you get to the pros, everything is structured. You know what you're doing on Mondays, you know what you're doing on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. Now, how can I transfer that to being an entrepreneur? On Mondays, I'm connecting with people, I'm making connections, I'm building relationships. Tuesday is where I'm taking and finishing my certification as a life and performance coach. Wednesdays and Thursdays is strictly all coaching. And then Fridays is podcasts and different things. So I set my schedule up in a way for me to be efficient, and it looks the same. And that's how student athletes have it done. So that's what I help entrepreneurs do. That's what I help people do in leadership, because sometimes you just get overwhelmed. 72% of small business owners and entrepreneurs are overwhelmed by their roles. So how do we get focused on what the real outcome is?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I actually own a small business as well, doing expert witness work within the industry, and balancing that is almost an impossibility. I actually am going to take some of what you just suggested and remap or envision my life.
Maybe we should work together.
Maybe we should, because I'm thinking, that seems so simple. How did I miss that? Because I try to wear all these different hats and go in and out of things, and I lose focus.
Cognitively, when we if you go from something like a coaching session for myself, if I go from a coaching session to a connection call to a podcast, cognitively, you get super tired. And that's where the mental fatigue sets in, decision fatigue sets in, and you don't make great decisions.
I appreciate that. I'm going to use that. I'm glad we had this call. Now I know where mistakes are coming from. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would say, I love that the structure is critical, because I think, like you said, student athletes, right? Like we have this structure put in place for us, but then as you transition out of college into the pros, you have to create some of that too. Like there's probably a little more freedom, but then with that can also be, how am I balancing my time so that I can do all of these things well, not just when I step on the field, because what happens off the field also impacts what happens on the field. And so I'm curious what some of the vital skills you would say to your role as a NFL player. If we can speak to those student athletes currently who might listen to this, who are in our program, who want to play pro, what are skills they need to have, and they need to know they're going to need that to carry over into the pros.
What skills? Mentally, physically?
You can divide. I love that you chose to divide them. There are not. It's not one, right? Like mental, emotional, physical. They all matter.
Yeah, I would say mental is the biggest thing. If you are a college athlete right now, you got a college scholarship to play athletics, you already have the talent. That's very clear. The only thing that separates people in the NFL, NBA, or whatever is 90% mental, because everybody is just as good as you. Just like in college, when you take that jump from high school to college, it's like, wow, there's some really good players on this team who are just as good as me, if not better. Stepping into the NFL, it's the elite of the elite. And there is no time, there is no room for error. It's only 53 guys on the NFL roster. 46 people get to dress on game day. So it's that much of a difference. But it's not a talent thing. It's a mindset thing. What's really important? Are you getting your sleep, or are you out partying? There are some people in the NFL, NBA, who can do the party and can perform just as good. If you're not one of those people, you have to have that self-awareness, and that just is what it is. But I think it's more mental, a mindfulness practice. If you look at and you study some of the great athletes, they talk about mindset more than anything. Michael Jordan, and even in The Last Dance, it was all a mindset thing. There have been people who are just as talented as him. He wants it more. He's willing to do whatever it takes. Kobe Bryant, the same way. So many different things. So it really just depends on how you see yourself. What are your strengths? How can you maximize your strengths? Yes, try to get better at those weaknesses, because that's going to make you an overall better player. Same thing in business. It'll make you an overall better person to focus and try to get some of these weaknesses better. But let's maximize the strengths, because that's what you already do well. What do you do better than anybody else?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because I do agree there is a lot of talent, right? But it's that minute, that little percent that can push past the talent and prove that they're able to mentally stay tough and stay consistent too. And what would you say, kind of following that question up, what would you say you felt like the biggest difference going from college sports to pros, and something maybe you wish you would have told yourself, as a rookie in the league?
I don't wish I would have tell myself anything. So if I take you back to 2014, April 2014, I didn't get drafted. So I'm super upset about that. But, I had some of my friends there, and my dad was like, look, there have been plenty of stories of undrafted players. So I chose to go to Denver, because I was like, if I could play with Peyton Manning and learn his offense and gain his trust, I could play anywhere in the NFL. And that's been true to this day, now playing with Eli Manning, Tom Brady, Andrew Brees. So stepping into that locker room, though, was totally different. Like I'm getting my equipment, I'm getting everything settled. I'm walking around, I'm meeting different people. And then I see 18 Manning. And that's where everything changed for me. It's like, wow. I'm really here. This guy's 38 years old. I'm 22, and I've been watching him play forever. So I don't wish I would have changed anything, but that was the moment where I knew I was there. And he comes up to me and he says, "Hey, my name's Peyton." I was like, yes. You're the guy from the Nationwide commercials. I know. I'm just kidding. I was just kidding about that. But that's where things changed for me, because him introducing himself to me, even though I knew who he was, said a lot about him. And that forever changed me. And I ended up catching his last pass in the Super Bowl. But I feel like the trust that day, if he had just walked by me and said, "Hey, Rook," I don't know how I would have reacted, or if I would have had the same vision. But the way he treated me was awesome. And he treats everybody like that. But that's where things kind of changed for me.
Benny, it almost sounds like success could have stopped you in your tracks at that moment. You get where I'm coming from? Yeah, I mean, it was such a highlight, an empowering moment of sorts, that it could have derailed you. And I think it does some. And I think that's a theme that I'm picking up on with respect to your message is, how do you overcome that? How do you get beyond that and teach yourself a skill set, if you will, to rise above?
Yeah, definitely. I think the way you kind of rise above is you have role models, you have people you look up to. And when you think about your role models, if you think about anybody that you looked up to when you were growing up, or that you looked up to when you were growing up, think about the qualities that they have. Those are your values. So the reason why I talk about Kobe Bryant is, like, if I think about like what he values: hard work, never giving up, persevering, looking at things in a different way, especially when they're tough. Those are things that I embody. So a small, simple tool that people can use is to look at their role models and how do they handle things. Because a lot of the things that we all go through, other people have already been through them. So let's not try to make it harder than what it is. And everybody thinks there's some magic pill that you can take to eliminate fear and anxiety, and that's not it.
Yeah.
It's control. What you focus is what you feel. What you focus on is what you feel.
Yeah, I think so many people get caught up. What you were getting at is caught up in their head, and they don't realize that you're not the first to experience this.
Right.
We're not doing enough to communicate that with individuals, and that's what stops us in our track, because we start concocting a storyline that's absolutely false in those instances, and it affects us negatively.
Yeah, that brain will start to go in a loop. I mean, if we think about my free throw story, that carried with me for a long time. Where I was playing in games in college, where I was playing not to win. I was playing not to lose. I was coming from a fear-based way of playing safe. And like, sometimes that's how we live life. Like, why are we playing like this?
Mm-hmm.
And let's think about, like, when I work with some of my clients, I tell them, tell me 20 great things that you've done in your life, or times where you've overcome obstacles. And that's what you read every single morning, because that little shift, you already know that you can do this. But sometimes we're just focused on the little moment that we messed up on. But what about all the great things that we've done? So a small win list that before I make a decision or I'm going through a tough time, I look at all the things I've already achieved, and I know I can do this, and then affirm it to myself.
Yeah, I love what you're saying. Oh, sorry, shall I go ahead?
No, it's okay. I was just going to speak to the whole idea of playing in fear. I know that was a part of my career as well. It's like, it feels like the lie is that it's safer. I feel like, it's easy. Play to not make mistakes rather than to play all out with your whole heart, whether you do or don't make mistakes. And so I think it does, like, maybe you make less mistakes, but you never know, because you don't take the chance to go out and play to the best of your ability a lot of times, because you're playing so safe. So I love that mindset. And I think that can be my experience playing in college, and then also with some of the girls working with the team. It's pretty common, at least for female soccer players, to play in that like safe zone where it's like, I only play this position, do these things so that I know I'm capable, rather than like pushing yourself for growth as well. So I think that's
protecting, great. The brain. I mean, that's what, regardless of sport, regardless man or woman, every athlete goes through it. Some athletes are really it's just a natural thing for them. They don't even care about what people think about them, and good for them. You think about a guy like Tom Brady, his ultimate mindset is he doesn't even care about the mistakes, or like a Patrick Mahomes. Like you could tell Patrick Mahomes doesn't care about throwing interceptions, or like a Brett Favre, or Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, Serena Williams. They don't care about mistakes. Some athletes are just like that. And then some athletes, they do have that fear of failure, but their brain is just protecting them. It's a protection mechanism that, like, you don't want to feel that pain, or you don't want to feel that pain of messing up. And it's a constant work in progress. Nobody's perfect.
Yeah, and I think that resonates in industry and business as well, because certain people reach a certain level of success, and then they go, all right, I'm afraid to make any further moves because I don't want to lose what I've achieved. And I know I'm even guilty of that, because you're like, well, I could do this, I could try that, but what if I mess what I've already got up, and then I lose everything I've worked so hard for? And becomes a trust thing. And I know it's difficult. You might have families and obligations, and you're just like, I got to play it safe.
But what if you do get what you want?
I know, right? I know.
Right There's this guy
I'm going to do some things differently after I get off the call with you. No.
There was a guy actually I was just talking to who could become a potential client, who has written an incredible show that just got picked up by a producer, but he's doing his 9 to 5, and he's just like, man, what if it doesn't get picked up? I was like, a producer just picked it up. He was like, and then he said, he was trying to make it in a way as if I don't really want to go for it because I don't want to put so much time into it, but this is his passion and what he loves and what he loves doing. Why not go for it? If I had that mindset in terms of looking at the statistics of making it to the NFL 1%, I could just been like, maybe I'll work out. I'll work out, but I'm not trying to make it to that level. Right. And now he's going to probably be a potential client because that you just can't live life like that. You gotta jump and build your wings on the way down.
Yeah,
that's
like
awesome.
That. Yeah.
Okay, so let's go back to what are your role on the NFL team? What do you really enjoy most about what you do on the field and off the field, being in a team atmosphere? And then what have you really been challenged by?
What do I really love about being in the NFL? Man, there's so many different things. I think the best part about being in the NFL is the team changes every year. And that's a good and a bad thing. So, we win the Super Bowl in 2016. People are starting to get paid. People want more money. The team is not going to look the same. So you have to, the fact that in the NFL is that you have to almost start over from scratch really every year. In college, you have at least 3 years. If you have a great player that plays or a great player that's a freshman, he's going to be there for 2 more years. In the NFL, he could have a great season. He's going to be a rival next year. So I think that's one of the most incredible things in the NFL is that you have to start over. And you have like a solid nucleus, but you have to build everything up. And you're only as good as your weakest link. You're only as good as your rookie team or your rookies. You're only going to be as good as them. Like if you think about Tampa Bay just winning the other day, Antoine Whitfield Jr., that's a rookie who stepped up and made plays. That shows how good that team is. You see a guy like Tom Brady, the Tampa Bay, it was 7-9 the year before. They didn't have necessarily a great record this year, but one guy, because of his leadership, can do anything. But I would say the connections and the relationships that I've built in the NFL, and I feel like I'm super unique because I've been undrafted, but the teams that I've played for, Denver winning a championship, but playing with Peyton Manning, Wes Welker, Demaryius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders, DeMarcus Ware, Von Miller, TJ Ward, Aqib Talib. Those guys are incredible. Then I go to New England where I play with Tom Brady, one of the most incredible quarterbacks. Then New York, where I'm playing with Eli, Odell Beckham, Saquon Barkley, 2 of the best athletes that I've ever seen in my life. And then this year with Drew Brees, playing with one of the most accurate quarterbacks of all time. And then guys like Cameron Jordan. And then, getting back together with Emmanuel Sanders on a different team and how we can compare the teams. I think it's the relationship is what I enjoy about the NFL the most, because football is football. But when you get to see guys or play against guys that you grew up watching that are still playing, and I'm probably one, I don't know if I'm one of the only NFL players, but every time I play against another NFL player or Aaron Rodgers, I'm in awe of how good they are. So I look at it in a different way. My roles on teams, I'm more of a role player. I play special teams. That's the way I got into the NFL. That's the way I'm going to stay in the NFL. I play, about 20 to 25 plays a game on offense in my best years. And I love it. But I know my role. I'm very comfortable with who I am. And I've had some tough times in terms of, really figuring out my role. And I know who I am now, and stepping into that, I can embrace that. And when I get my opportunities, then I'll have my time to shine. But there's a salary cap, and there are people who get paid $100 million. They have to get the ball. So it just is what it is.
That's incredible. The stories you must have, and the people you've played with are incredible.
So many.
I can't imagine how you have time enough in your personal life and business life, because I'd be flying so high, if you will, because I have the opportunity to play with them, to do anything other than think about football. So I'm impressed. That's a lot of fun. Now, aside from that, your book, Silver Spoon, The Imperfect Guide to Success. Yes. There's a quote in it, and I'm going to read the quote to you, and then I'm going to ask for a little backstory with respect to it, if you will. Okay. It says, "Have you ever watched a dog out for a morning walk who just spotted a squirrel? The dog immediately springs forward to pursue his catch. He is restricted, not by his own instincts, but by a force he didn't know existed. His harness, his owner's restraint. What's going on there? I'm real curious.
I'm a proud dog dad.
Okay.
My baby boy Simba. That is a story about my baby boy Simba, and it's really a story about attitude and the fact that he's super excited every single day to go out there and pursue his dreams. And sometimes there are things in life that are stopping us, but he focuses on what he can control. He gets super excited. And why can't we get excited about the opportunities every single day? Why do we have to just focus on what's going wrong with us? What about what's going right? And why can we not think about the limitless possibilities? That's why I have New York City in the background in my office, because that environment inspires me.
Okay.
Think about the people who move to New York City or LA. They don't let that restriction, that harness stop them, because they're thinking about the big dream. Simba thinks about catching that squirrel. Even though he won't catch it, it doesn't stop him from having the right attitude about it every single day. So when you're pursuing your dream, what kind of attitude do you have even on those tough days where you feel like life is holding you back?
Okay. It's interesting because I think sometimes we get tripped up in the sense where we get excited by something and stop ourselves from going after it because of a myriad of reasons, whether we're thinking negatively or we have fear. Or so that's pretty insightful to say, stop restricting our own natural instincts is what I'm kind of garnering from what you just said.
Yes.
Listen, I'm learning a lot of stuff today.
98. There's a stat out there. It's like 95%, 96% of some of the things that we make up in our mind that stop us from going after something never happen.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That is interesting.
I can think through a lot of those right now going, I really overanalyzed that one. No, so I have to ask, in regards to your own personal pursuits, when you find yourself getting in a funk, if you will, how do you get out of it? How do you find the strength to say enough is enough? I'm going to overcome it with X. And then to follow up with that, how do you teach someone else that?
Yeah. So my life purpose is what continues to, if I'm going through a tough time, but also that win list that I talked about earlier, the things that I've already accomplished. And I think more people need to put their accomplishments in places where they can see them. There's a reason why if you walk into, we could just use Florida, for example. If you walk into the football building, there are nothing but pictures of success that let you know that you can do it.
Yeah.
Why would you not set yourself up? I have my Super Bowl picture of me catching Peyton's last pass right back there. That was a story of an undrafted guy that made the team, that found a way to gain Peyton's trust for him to actually catch his last pass. It was just the process. But you surround yourself, it's your peer group. Who do you surround yourself that is inspiring you? My friends that I have, in my toughest moments, they knew when to text me because they know who I am. Or, times where I've been cut a couple times in my career. My friends, my brother especially, who I dedicated my book to, he would always tell me, embrace. He would always say congratulations when I got cut. Because this is now, you just become more dangerous in terms of every time you fail, you get better at it. It's like when you touch that hot stove, you know not to do that. You navigate things in a different way. In losing, there are lessons in the loss. Winning is a progression, losing is a lesson. That's the best way to see it. You're going to get better. That failure, it's going to ignite something in you, and it's going to continue to really make you stronger, as long as you don't let it defeat you. But surrounding yourself with the right people, and I also have a life coach and a business coach to have that. That's the reason why I kind of got into that, is because that time where I got cut and I got introduced to this guy by the name of JP. We had this incredible conversation. He kind of asked me who I was, and I was naming off accolades, and then he asked me who are you really? Oh. And I was crying for 15 minutes because I didn't know. Because we always get attached to this identity of sport or this identity of being a CEO. But who are you? That's what you do. And that's what I help people do, to, work on their business instead of in their business.
Wow. That's amazing. Inspirational, to say the least. So I appreciate that insight. transitioning to a new, same topic, but a new element of it. With this season in COVID and everything that's gone on, social justice matters, you name it, how has that impacted you, say the organization, the NFL, your business, and how have you found ways to overcome that personally and or as team, so on?
Me personally, I wouldn't say it has really affected me. And it's very eye-opening and it's bothersome, but I've been in places and situations where I understand there are just some people in the world who are just like this. And it comes back to focusing on what we can control. You can't make somebody want to love people.
Okay. Yeah.
You can help other people understand, the people who want to understand and want to have the conversations, you can educate them. And that's where I focus my energy to keep myself happy. You can't change people. If that's who they want to be and that's what they want to view the world, that's just on them. And that's just how the world is. That's just how people are. People have their beliefs, the way they grow up. And it's really just about understanding that. But I think the fact that these conversations are happening, hoping that they continue to happen, I think it's super important. And I think it's super important for, everybody to love everybody and to put everybody in situations, especially people of color, because they are enough and they are qualified to be in these certain roles. And, I'm all about having these conversations and just pointing and opening the eyes of different people.
Okay. I love that. Yeah. I wish it was just about love. That's one of the sayings that my sister always tells me. So thank you.
Yeah. And Bennie, you sound on multiple occasions, you've talked about people, you seem super relational. And so when it comes to off the field, how do you maintain the work-life balance? Sounds like your family is really important to you as well. How do you keep all of that in a way where you're valuing all those aspects that are really important to you?
Yeah, I have that structure. Make sure to travel to see my brother, travel to see my dad. I just actually moved my mom across the street from me, so it's easier to see her now. So she now lives in Denver across the street from me, which is super cool. So I make sure to keep those people close to me, and I kind of schedule things out. That's just kind of the way it has to be scheduled out. If it's a priority, it's super important. Once you plan it and schedule it, then it becomes real. If it's you just, I'll go see this person or I'll make this call, if it's just always in your mind, yeah, that's the place where it starts. But if you put it on paper and you schedule it, put it on your calendar and you schedule it, that's when it becomes real and it becomes a priority.
That's awesome. And the identity thing too. I mean, I love that you talked about how you didn't know who you were. And I think that's really common. The identity foreclosure for athletes, especially who play Power 5 schools and either go on to play pro, or maybe they don't go on to play pro, but they've never actually had to deal with that question, like, who am I outside of my sport? So curious for you, is that just a continual journey, or when you finally kind of had that question asked you point blank, is that when you really figured that out?
No, I think it's a journey because I think things evolve over time. You evolve over time, but you have like a solid base. And my life purpose statement that I came up with, my coach, is something that I feel it gets me excited when I say it. So you'll know, but it's really about honoring these values, and it's really about what you're giving back, what you're contributing, and how you're growing. That's when you'll know who you are, and what you're doing is super fulfilling and fun. But for athletes, yeah, it is tough. I mean, it's not even tough for just athletes. It's tough for CEOs. I've seen it with CEOs right now who feel like, they have to have this logo or, this title for them to be a super respected, instead of the person is who got the job. You don't have to have this title just for you to pick up the phone. Well, I don't have the CEO title, so I can't just make these calls and these connections anymore. No. People buy from people. They don't buy from titles.
Yeah, that's great. And then do you have any advice for students interested in playing sports professionally?
Yeah, you got to put in the work. You have to put in the work. But that's a hard thing to say, because it really just depends. If that's what your vision is and that's what you're really passionate about, like, yes, just put in the work. You have to continue to get better. You have to have that canny approach, which is constant and never ending improvement. You have to improve there's something that you have to improve on every single year. You have to put in that work, and then you're going to have to make sacrifices and be disciplined. Like, there are going to be times where you can't just hang out with your friends, and you might lose certain relationships, but this dream is something that you just can't, just get out of college and wait for 3 years and then go to the pros. Like, it's a progression, and then you have to make the next step. So you have to maximize that time. Time is one of the only things in the world we don't get back. You can't get it back. So maximize it.
That's awesome. Appreciate that.
So Bennie, when it comes to your outside activities and your entrepreneurial endeavors and even the support system that you have around you, when you're interviewing or looking to people to help you, what kind of qualifications or skills or even a personality trait are you looking for that fits your vision and your need? How do you assess those individuals?
They don't look at what I do when they talk to me. They challenge me. Like that coach that they challenged me. Draymond Green and I been best friends for 15 years now. It was more of his challenging that did it, like not patting me on the back. I don't need anybody to pat me on the back.
Okay.
We're here to maximize our time. I'm here to make an impact. I'm here to try to make it to the NFL. I'm trying to do things that are already hard to do. So I don't need anybody to like, oh, it's okay when something goes wrong. Or like for my coach, I was having this mental block. Like, I don't know if clients will want me because I don't have a Harvard business degree like you. But he was like, you're in the NFL. You've done this. You've done this. You've done this. Who are you not to do it? And I was like, you're right. I'm going to do it.
I think he's right. I definitely see it. You're onto something. So you had mentioned earlier you have a podcast. How can people find that podcast?
Yeah, it's on Apple. It's on Spotify. I also have, I put some of the videos on my YouTube channel as well, but it's on Apple and Spotify. It's called The Quiet Time.
Okay.
And yeah, I bring small business owners on there, CEOs, athletes, just everybody's journey is different to being successful. So that's where, I come in and share stories and we have some fun and we just talk.
Okay. And if our students wanted to connect with you in some capacity, do they find you through Quiet Time? Is there another handle like on Twitter or Instagram that you might be using?
Yeah, I use Beanz, BEANZZ 16 on Twitter and Instagram. They can reach out to me on there. They can reach out to me on LinkedIn as well. And I also, I'll send you guys the link for my online course. I of everything that I really talked about, I put it into a course that I sell for I sell it for like $27. Just,
okay.
Make it super affordable for people and college students, because these are things that I wish I'd known leaving college. Mm-hmm. So I put it all into a course, and there are some other interviews in there that aren't on my Quiet Time podcast, where they can really learn the importance of leadership, how to connect with people on LinkedIn, how to manage their time. There's so many different things. Yeah.
No, we'll definitely share that. So yeah, please provide that to us. That'd be great. Now, we're going to kind of transition away from the serious elements of this to kind of a lighthearted, fun, 1 minute fire away question that Shelly gets into. So it's be prepared.
Yes. Okay. So I get really excited about this. And you get 1 minute. I'm going to put it on the clock right here. And I'm going to ask you questions. And I don't remember if you did or didn't. I don't think you've seen these yet, but I'm just going to fire them away. So whatever the first thing that comes to mind, they're all kind of different. They're pretty lighthearted, just to get to know you on a kind of a fun level. And we're going to see how many you can get through. I think I have like 15 potential ones. But yeah, so here we go. All right, starting now. Okay, first job.
Walking dog.
Current hobby.
Madden.
LinkedIn or Twitter?
LinkedIn.
Favorite time of the day?
Lunchtime.
Name 2 daily habits.
Meditation and journaling.
Where do you go to write?
My office.
Netflix, Prime Video, or cable?
Cable.
Burgers or pizza?
Whew. Burgers.
Favorite animal?
Lion.
Mountains or beaches?
Mountains.
Favorite type of food?
Mexican.
What phone app do you waste the most time on?
Instagram.
And time. Great job. That was perfect.
Name the one pet peeve. I was going to say people who waste time.
There you go.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So, yeah, thank you, Bennie, so much for joining us today and taking your time to share your both, athletic and professional endeavors. I am certain that the University of Florida Department of Sport Management students, the faculty and alumni appreciate and value your thoughts today. Now, with that being said, before we depart, do you have any concluding remarks that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I always let people know. There's a couple of things that I let people know that I think are super important, regardless if they talk to me ever again or not. The biggest room in the world is room for improvement. It's something I live by. And when opportunity knocks, it's too late to prepare.
Ooh.
So when opportunity knocks, it's too late to prepare. I think it's one of the most important things that I've ever learned. That you've been asking for this, you've been asking for that. Are you ready for it? Because when that opportunity is there, you can't just go back and prepare now. You got to be ready. So.
Okay. And now, have you trademarked or copyrighted that yet? Just asking for a friend. No, anyway.
Yeah.
That's fantastic advice. I probably will steal that in some capacity, not to publish, but just
I mean, we're all stealing. Everybody steals from everybody. So no, feel free.
It's just funny how you go along. I mean, I'm much older and have been in industry for a long time and education. And it's just, how do you not know these quotes at this level? It shocks me sometimes. And it's fascinating how we continue to evolve things. So I really appreciate what you just said there. That's a good one. So anyway, thank you again, Bennie, for your time and your insights today. It's been very helpful to me. I'm sure to Shelly and everyone else that will be watching. So with that said, we are your hosts, Brian Avery and
Shelly Lyle.
And go Gators, right? There we go. Go Gators. We'll close it with that. I don't know. There we go, Bennie.
Wow. We got to do it. Michigan State. Okay.
No, I went to when actually Michigan State beat Florida. In the national championship. I was at that game, and my brother's on the front page of the newspaper with the Gator sign doing this. We weren't Michigan State fans at the time. So.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Yeah, this is awesome. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
And we'll send you a follow-up email. Thank you, and we'll have a little gift that we'll send your way. So I'll get you an email with information on that.
Appreciate it. If you guys want to reach out to me, Brian, if you want to talk about anything, feel free. This is what I love to do. And, I love giving back and helping and empowering other people. So thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I probably will be in touch, actually, Bennie. You've been very helpful.
Absolutely.
All right. Stay safe out there.
Yeah. Thanks. Have a good day.
All right. Bye-bye.